Title Talks is a production of PropLogix. We provide time-saving title support services to closing professionals. Our services include municipal lien searches, HOA research, tax certificates, surveys, and more. We recently launched flat rate pricing for our standard lot and block surveys in Florida. Get a reliable, low rate for a survey and elevation certificate and get on with your closing. Geographic availability and restrictions may apply. Visit our website to learn more. According to our yearly State of the Title Industry survey and report, women make up about 80% of the title industry, but just 20% of leadership positions. People like my guest today, Kim Whitlock, are trying to change that. She's the founder of a group called Women in Title, and on this episode of Title Talks, she's sharing how we can elevate women in leadership roles to better reflect the customers we serve. I'm Lindsay Gordon, and this is Title Talks. Hey Kim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you on. So today we're going to be talking about women in the title industry. They make up about 80% of the industry. This conversation kind of circulates around the State of the Title Industry survey that we do every year. Most people are aware that the majority of the title industry is made up of females. 80-20 split is quite a wide split. But when you get to those higher level positions, there tend to be more males. It's actually, according to our survey, flipped. So top level positions like owner, CEO, or some other executive or VP, the split is typically 80% male versus 20% female. So we see quite a big gap in those leadership roles. So this is kind of setting up what we're going to be talking about today. But first, I wanted to give you, Kim, a chance to tell us about yourself and your journey to where you are in the title industry.
Well, yeah. So, thanks again for having me. I'm super excited to talk about my favorite topic of women in title insurance. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry for about 15, 16 years now. It's a funny story. I was on the waiting list for nursing school, and I got into title insurance because of a neighborhood friend who just worked at our neighborhood vet. It's so random, but he owned a title company. And so I started working with him, part-time, working, also in the mortgage side a little bit while I waited to get into nursing school. Because back then there was a 4-year, waiting period. So I started out with some basic file cleanouts, things like that, and I quickly got into the search and exam piece of it, and I fell in love with it. So I never went to nursing school. Surprise! I stayed with that small independent agent for quite some time. And my next jump was to a local regional underwriter, which was a big goal of mine. One of my first mentors was an underwriter there. She really, really inspired me to take my career to the next level. And from there, I started different operations, title production operations, working with agencies, worked a little bit in claims, things like that. Eventually, I went to a larger underwriter. And then right before Westcor, I did serve as president of a local title company. Women in Title started about 2 years ago. And it really came out of a need for just, when women, a space for women felt safe and comfortable, you talking about our unique challenges and what we go through on a day-to-day basis. And I can definitely say that that's probably my proudest accomplishment yet in my journey in title insurance.
So you mentioned Women in Title, the group that you founded. So, what really was the impetus to start it? Like, were you inspired by something or someone? Like, what kind of kicked that off?
Yeah, so it really kicked off with, like I said, I started with my biggest step in my career was that first underwriter, right? And a lot of our agents, like you said, based on your survey, your study, a lot of our industry is women. So a lot of women were coming to our company out as an underwriter asking for that underwriting guidance, right? And I found that a lot of them would call me first because they were nervous to talk to our male underwriters. At the top, our underwriters typically are older men, and who've been in the industry for a long time, and that can be intimidating sometimes, especially for escrow officers who don't have a depth of title knowledge. So I found that they were coming to me oftentimes asking for that help. And then when I made that transition to a larger national underwriter, those people followed me and were still asking those questions. And then when I went to the work as a president for a local title company, those women were still coming to me asking me those questions. But at that point, they phrased it a little different because they were worried that they couldn't come to me because now we were competition. And I just didn't want them to feel that way. I was lucky enough to have those female mentors early in my career. And I wanted them to have that. I wanted them to feel comfortable. And I wanted to just build that community where we could just support each other and build each other up. And that's really what it's become.
That's awesome. So I know you guys have a LinkedIn group. What other things have you been able to do?
So we have a LinkedIn group. If you look for us on LinkedIn, make sure you search under groups. We're not a regular page, we're a group. We also have an Instagram account. We've grown that over the last year from nothing to almost 700 followers. We have a newsletter that goes out occasionally. We have an email blasts and just kind of word of mouth. We just communicate with each other wherever and however we can.
I love that. So, like I had said when we kicked off the episode, 80% of the industry is made up of females, but there is that inverse split when we talk about like leadership positions. So like, how can we elevate women in the title industry and kind of make them more comfortable, because I would assume for the most part it may be that women aren't feeling like they're being primed for these higher leadership roles. So like, how can we elevate women in the title industry?
I think for me, and I can speak personally, right? For me, the two main pieces that helped me get to where I am were not only mentorship, but education. So I was lucky enough to have great mentors, both female and male, right? I mean, this industry is full of incredibly smart people. But when you have a female mentor that you can really go to and kind of see where she's gone and what she's able to do, that's really inspiring. And when you have a male mentor, right, you have that advocacy behind you, that allyship of them lifting you up, supporting you, calling you out in meetings where you may feel less than and you don't want to speak up. And that's super important. And I would say that the other really big piece is education. I've gotten a lot of my confidence from education, from really knowing my stuff. And you can get that through different organizations, your local land title associations, but you can also get it through those mentors and making those connections with people and coworkers and groups like ours, Women in Title, where we can actually sit down and talk about these real life problems. A lot of title insurance topics are abstract. So when you get to sit down and actually talk to someone face to face about something that you're encountering, it instills a sense of confidence that you can bring back to your organization and speak up.
So Westcor, your employer, is famously led by CEO Mary O'Donnell, who is amazing, and like her reputation precedes her. She served as the president of the American Land Title Association, and I know that she's one of few women that's like leading a title insurance underwriter in the industry. But talk about what it means to you to work for a woman-led organization, because it is pretty rare, especially at that level and for a company so big.
Absolutely, right? I mean, Mary is an inspiration to all of us, really. And she is a true testament to representation matters, right? Like, we see her and we know, okay, we can get there one day, right? Like, that's really important. So I can tell you that Mary was a big piece of me wanting to work for Westcor, a company that really not only led by her, but that supports her, respects her. She's respected in our industry. All of that was a big part of why I wanted to be with this company and help them grow. And I can tell you, her leadership really has trickled down to the whole organization. Westcor has been so welcoming and supportive of this Women in Title group and this initiative. They see that the importance of it and bringing up other women in our industry, that from day one, they have been a big supporter of mine and pushed me and welcomed this new community.
women-led organizations, like, are there specific things that might be a little bit different or that we're seeing in women-led organizations that maybe we don't necessarily see in other organizations?
That's a really good question. And I think, if I really think about it, I think at least at Westcor, there really is just a sense of respect for all women. I don't feel I've been in the industry long enough where I've felt those kind of dismissive comments, those dismissive conversations where I didn't feel valued and seen. But I think having Mary lead us has really helped the whole team. And I think that she's actually attracted the right talent, the right people who want and respect women in our industry, right? Because it's not about exclusion. It's about including everybody and getting all of our points of view and all of our knowledge into one great organization. But with that said, I think that there are plenty of male-led companies that are that have initiatives to help bring up women in their industry and in their corporations. Just like First American has a great program for women in leadership. We have October Research, who has their Women's Leadership Summit, which was fantastic this year. So I think we're seeing across the board that more and more companies are seeing the value in bringing up the women in their organization, which is really great to see.
I love that. So I'm sure there are people listening who might feel like, it's 2025, like, gender parity it's not really a thing. It doesn't, or disparity, sorry. It's not necessarily a thing. Although, there's still the pay gap, which is about like 84 cents to the dollar. For every dollar a male earns, 84 cents. And then often that gap is even wider among minority groups of women. But, what would you say to someone who's saying like focusing on this is just going to keep us holding us back? Or, I think I hear that. Not necessarily just in this industry, but I think just generally, that's kind of a lot of the times it's like, oh, if we're doing, any sort of DEI or, looking at and or examining, differences, that it's just going to like keep dividing us. And, what would you say to someone who says that it doesn't necessarily matter?
Also a great question. I think that I would challenge them to look at the data because just like you said, the percentages of females in leadership roles in our industry it's sad to look at. The pay gap, it's very disappointing. I will agree, we shouldn't have to be talking about this anymore, but we do, because you again look at that data, and the fact that women are the majority workforce, but a minority in leadership just highlights a clear imbalance that I would ask anyone questioning us to look at. Look in the mirror and take a look at that. Like I mentioned briefly before, gender parity isn't just about fairness, it's about tapping into the full potential of our talent pool. And diverse leadership teams really do make better decisions. We drive innovation, and it reflects the clients we serve in our industry.
Yeah, that's a really great point, that it's reflective of the people that we're serving.
Yeah.
You had mentioned before that like our male counterparts in the title industry and at our companies, like there's like this potential for advocacy. Could talk a little bit about how our male counterparts could potentially help elevate women in the title industry.
So I like talking about this because, like I mentioned earlier, I was lucky enough to have those female mentors early on in my career, but I've had a lot of male mentors as well who have really, again, taught me a lot. So I have that education base to have that confidence to speak up and go farther in my career and make change, right? So I think number one, the males in our industry can take a look at the women around them and see, can I help mentor them? Do I think that they want to be in an underwriting role or a title role, right? I think they just need to stop and look at the talent pool around them. One thing we really haven't said yet is, besides the fact that we have the majority of women in our industry, but they're not in leadership roles, but the majority of women in our industry are in the escrow side of things. As a woman early on in my career, like I said, I started as a title examiner. That is my jam. I am a title nerd and I love it. But applying for those title jobs, I would get calls back from those agencies and want to put me into escrow. I think if those men in those leadership roles can open their eyes and see that women are really good at the title side as well, that's going to help us, you know. Also, if you're male and you're in, you know, team meetings, help support the women sitting at that table with you. Ask them their opinion. Uplift them. Try to help their ideas get seen by others who may be dismissive because they are a woman. And I think lastly is, this is a big initiative for us in Women in Title, is that we have spent a lot of time thinking about our unique challenges as women in this industry and finding a concise and easily digestible way to explain that to the men in our industry so they can take it back to their corporations, their organizations, and help implement better culture within that company where women do feel seen and valued and safe. That's a huge piece of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what is your hope with the Women in Title group? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish?
I want every woman in our industry who feels that she doesn't have a seat at the table to feel like she does at our table, right? I want to uplift all of us. I want to see us reach our goals, shatter that ceiling. Whatever it is that you want out of this career, I want you to go after it with the confidence of this community behind you.
That's awesome. And what, in the next like 5 to 10 years, would you like to see any sort of changes you'd like to see in the industry or, anything that you're hoping that will be reflected?
Yeah, I mean, we can have lofty goals, right? Where we don't have to talk about that pay gap anymore. But honestly, I think I'd like to see more women in leadership. I'd like to see more women underwriters. That's a huge thing we are seeing more and more. I'd love to see more women run companies. I would love for women to feel welcomed and safe going to conferences. I would love to see all of that happen. And I think that we can get there with groups like Women in Title, but also with people like you, with people like the men in our industry, helping us and supporting us in that effort, for sure.
So I think you had mentioned it before, but how do people join the Women in Title group?
Yeah, so there's a few ways. Like I said, you can join us on our Instagram profile where I update on our local events, our national events, and our charity efforts. Our Instagram is women_in_title. You can find us on LinkedIn. Like I said, we're a group. We're not a page. So when you search for Women in Title, go to the group section. You can also reach out to me directly and I can get you added to our mailing lists or reach out to one of our members. We have members across the country. So reach out and we're happy to welcome you with open arms.
That's awesome. So with 2 years under your belt, is there anything about this that you have that sort of surprised you or any sort of challenges people are facing that maybe you weren't necessarily aware of?
Well, yeah, again, great question. I would say the first thing that really surprised me was just the popularity, our reach, right? That very first meeting of ours, I was so nervous that no one would show up.
Aww.
I was like, oh my gosh, what if this is just a big idea in my head and I'm just being silly? And there were 7 of us there that first day, but everyone had a notepad and a pen, writing notes and ready to ask questions and take away good information. And now we have just grown exponentially. I think I'm surprised, like literally every day, every week when I see and I hear the impact that this is having on women. I knew obviously I'm a woman in this business and I started when I was young. So I have personally experienced a lot of those struggles. So I felt like I knew what other women were going through and what they wanted out of this. But just hearing their stories and like what an impact we've had on them has been surprising in the best way possible.
I love that. I love that. I think it's just confirmation that, like, yes, there is a niche for this, there is a need for this, and that people are excited and like they're ready to take part in it, which is really awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add about the group or about what you've been able to accomplish?
Yeah, we've got a lot of exciting things coming up in 2025. Thanks to, this year we really have kind of blown up. Like you mentioned earlier, you've seen a lot of our stuff on LinkedIn. And so 2025 is opening up a lot of new opportunities for us besides this great opportunity right now. But also we were just featured in RESPA News, one of October Research's publications, talking about how we give back. Also, starting 2025, we're going to be launching a new website with new features. We're going to be opening up new state chapters. I have women all over the country who have reached out and want to do things locally. So stay tuned for those announcements. Reach out to me if you're interested in a chapter in your state. We have interest all the way from California to Florida. It's pretty exciting. I don't know if I've said this in the beginning, right? But we started really locally in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. And we meet every month, third Tuesday of the month for coffee, and we call it just Title Chat, right? And we have never missed a single meeting. But every year during the holidays, we have a charity event. And this year was huge. We partnered with Homemade Colorado. They're a great organization that helps people experiencing homelessness and also leaving unsafe living environments. So they help build new places to live, but they also help renovate places like domestic violence shelters, right? So we were able to partner with them, and that felt really, really good. And so going into 2025, we're going to be doing more of those charity events and hopefully make an impact on more local charities.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Links to the Women in Title Instagram account and LinkedIn group can be found on our Title Talk show notes page at proplogics.com/resource/podcast. We're excited to kick off 2025 with an all-new season of Title Talks. Until next time, happy closings.